Welcome to The Explainer, where we're digging into a pretty big idea. What does a real apology actually look like?
You know, we've all been there, right? On either side of an apology. And we've probably all had that feeling, is just saying, I'm sorry, really enough? Today, we're going to explore what a genuine change of heart looks like. And spoiler alert, it's about way more than just those two little words.
And to really get it, we're going way back, like over 2,000 years back, to a story about a man named Zacchaeus. Now, I know what you're thinking, but this isn't just some dusty old tale. It's actually a super powerful and, honestly, a surprisingly relevant case study in what it truly means to make things right.
So, first things first, to really feel the power of this apology, you got to understand the man who made it. So, who exactly was this Zacchaeus guy?
Okay, so his job title was Chief Tax Collector. Now, this was not like being an IRS agent today. Back then, it meant you were basically working for the enemy, the occupying Roman Empire, and your job was to collect taxes from your own people. The whole system was built to be corrupt, so collectors could demand way more than what was owed and just pocket the rest.
In this slide, this really shows the two sides of his life. On the one hand, his community saw him as a sinner, a thief, a flat-out traitor. But on the other hand, in his day-to-day reality, he was incredibly wealthy and powerful. But here's the kicker. He had all the money in the world, but he was completely alone, totally despised by everyone.
So you've got this very rich, very powerful, and very, very hated man, just going about his life. And then one single, totally unexpected moment happens that changes everything.
So the story goes, this super influential teacher, Jesus, is coming through town, and a huge crowd forms. Zacchaeus really wants to see him, but, well, he's a short guy. He can't see over anyone. So what does this rich, powerful man do? He climbs a tree, just to get a look. And that's when it gets wild. Jesus just stops, looks right up at him, and basically invites himself over to Zacchaeus' house. Can you imagine the shock in the crowd? This beloved teacher singling out the most hated guy in town for dinner.
And this leads us to the million-dollar question. What happens now? What does Zacchaeus do in this moment? Does he just offer a quick kind of mumbled, "Hey, sorry for all that stuff"? Let's look closely, because his response, well, it's the whole reason we're telling this story.
This is what he does. He stands up in front of everyone and makes this public declaration. Look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor, and if I have cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Now here's what's so fascinating. Notice what's missing? He never actually says the words, "I'm sorry." He doesn't just apologize, he makes a public, radical, and incredibly expensive promise to act.
So let's break this down piece by piece, because this declaration is like the perfect blueprint for what real, meaningful change actually looks like.
And here it is. You can really see the 3 key parts. First, public acknowledgement. He didn't do this in private. He stood up and said it out loud for everyone to hear. Second, radical generosity. He didn't just write a small check. He promised half of everything he owned. And third, specific restitution. It wasn't just a vague "I'll do better." It was a direct promise to repay the specific people he'd wronged. This wasn't a feeling he had. It was a concrete 3-part action plan.
I mean, just look at the numbers here. 50% of his entire net worth just gone right off the top to help the poor. And from what was left, he still had to make those huge restitution payments. This was no token gesture to clear his conscience. This was a massive financial hit that would completely change his life forever.
And let's talk about this number 4 times. This is so important. At the time, the law only required a thief to pay back what they stole, plus an extra 20%. Zacchaeus, totally on his own, promises to pay back 400%. He went way, way beyond what anyone expected or required. It was an action designed to prove how deep his change of heart really was.
And this slide, right here, this just boils it all down perfectly. A simple apology is about the past. It's words, "I'm sorry." But true repentance, the kind Zacchaeus showed us, is about the future. It's actions. "Here is how I will make it right." It's a total shift from just words to actual deeds.
So, what does a 2,000-year-old story about a tax collector mean for us today? Well, a lot, actually. Let's look at the big takeaways.
When you put it all together, the story of Zacchaeus shows us that a real apology, it's just so much more than words. It's action. It's about taking full responsibility for the damage you've caused and then actively trying to fix it, to restore what was broken. And ultimately, that's what leads to a different future. It's a change that people can actually see.
And honestly, this one sentence sums up the entire lesson perfectly. True repentance leads to transformed actions, not just words. That's the core idea. That's the principle this whole story is built on.
So, we'll leave you with a final thought to chew on. It's a pretty challenging question, but it gets right to the heart of all of this. If your actions, and not your words, were the only things that told the story of your apologies, what kind of story would they tell?